The fluorescent lights in the hospital room buzzed overhead, casting everything in a harsh, white glow that made Lena Brooks want to close her eyes and never open them again. But she couldn't. Not with Aiden lying so still in the hospital bed, his small chest rising and falling with breaths that seemed too shallow, too weak. Not with Arya sitting in the chair beside him, her twin brother's hand clasped in hers, her brown eyes too large in her thin face. "Mrs. Brooks," Dr. Richardson said, his voice careful and measured in that way doctors use when they're about to break your heart, "I need to be honest with you about the test results." Lena's hands twisted in her lap. She wore her work uniform, a bright red polo shirt from the diner where she waitressed double shifts 6 days a week. She'd come straight from work when the school called to say Aiden had collapsed on the playground. Again. "The genetic markers confirm what we suspected. Both children have Harrington-Meyer syndrome. It's extremely rare, affecting maybe 1 in 5 million children. The condition causes progressive cellular deterioration. Without treatment, the average life expectancy is..." He paused, seeming to search for gentler words that didn't exist. "Most children don't see their 10th birthday." The room tilted. Lena gripped the edge of her plastic chair, her knuckles going pale. Aiden was 7. Arya was 7. They had maybe 3 years left. Maybe less. "There is a treatment," Dr. Richardson continued, pulling out his tablet to show her research papers and medical diagrams that swam before her eyes. "An experimental gene therapy that's showing remarkable results. But it's not covered by insurance. It's still in clinical trials and the cost..." He cleared his throat. "The treatment program runs about $800,000 per patient. For both children you're looking at over $1.5 million. $1.5 million. Lena made $23,000 a year. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with peeling wallpaper and a bathroom sink that dripped constantly no matter how many times she tried to fix it. She drove a 15-year-old sedan that needed a new transmission. She bought clothes at thrift stores and clipped coupons and sometimes skipped meals so her babies could eat. $1.5 million might as well have been $1.5 billion. How long do I have to decide?" she heard herself ask, her voice sounding distant and strange. "The treatment needs to begin within the next 2 months for optimal results. The progression accelerates quickly once symptoms become noticeable." Dr. Richardson's expression softened. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Brooks. I truly am. There are some charitable foundations we can reach out to, fundraising options." But they both knew the truth. Charity drives and fundraisers took time. Time her children didn't have. After Dr. Richardson left, Lena sat beside Aiden's bed and watched her children. Aiden had finally fallen asleep, his face peaceful in a way it rarely was anymore. He'd been complaining of being tired for months, of his bones hurting. She thought it was growing pains. Arya had the same symptoms but hid them better, always trying to be brave, always trying to take care of her twin brother. "Mama?" Arya whispered. "Is Aiden going to be okay?" "Yes, baby," Lena whispered back, lying with a smile because what else could she do? "He's going to be just fine." At midnight, after the nurses had checked on Aiden one final time and Arya had curled up in the recliner chair to sleep, Lena stepped into the bright, empty hallway. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. She needed to call someone, talk to someone, figure out what to do. Dr. Richardson had given her his personal number for questions, told her to reach out anytime. She found the contact, her vision blurred with tears, and started typing. "Dr. Richardson, I don't know what to do. My babies are going to die and I can't save them. I don't have the money. I've been a good mother, I've worked so hard, but it's not enough. It will never be enough. Please, there has to be another way. There has to be something. I can't lose them. Please help me." She hit send before she could second-guess the desperate, rambling message. Then she slid down the wall in the hallway and cried as quietly as she could, her face buried in her knees. Her phone rang 20 minutes later. The number was unknown. Her heart lurched. Maybe Dr. Richardson was calling from a different phone? Maybe he had thought of something? "Hello," she answered, her voice hoarse. "Is this Lena Brooks?" The voice was male, deep, unfamiliar. Not Dr. Richardson. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Ethan Caldwell. You just sent me a text message about your children. About Harrington-Meyer syndrome." Lena's stomach dropped. She pulled the phone away from her ear, looked at the screen, clicked on the message she'd sent, and saw with growing horror that she'd sent it to the wrong number. In her exhausted, desperate state, she must have clicked on the wrong contact. The message had gone to a random number saved in her phone from God knew when. "I'm so sorry," she gasped. "That wasn't meant for you. I made a mistake. Please just delete it." "Don't hang up," he said quickly. "Please. I know this sounds strange, but I can help. I need to help. My twin brother died from the same condition when we were 8 years old. I've spent the last 20 years funding research for a cure. The treatment your doctor mentioned? I paid for its development. Please, let me help your children. Lena's breath caught. This had to be a joke. A cruel prank. I don't understand, she whispered. Who are you? I'm someone who knows exactly what you're going through. I'm someone who couldn't save my brother but maybe can save your children. I'm sending a car to the hospital right now. It will take you and your children home, and tomorrow morning it will bring you to my office. We need to talk about your twins, Mrs. Brooks. We need to talk about saving their lives. I don't know you. I can't just. Check your phone. I'm sending you my information right now. Look me up. I'm real, I promise. And I'm your children's best chance. The call ended. A moment later, a text came through with a name, a photo, and a website. Lena's hands trembled as she clicked the link. Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Industries. Net worth, $4.2 billion. Philanthropist. Major donor to medical research. There were articles about him, photos of him at charity galas in expensive suits, news stories about his business ventures. And there, in his biography section, a single line. Lost his twin brother James to a rare genetic disorder in 1998. Has since dedicated significant resources to genetic disease research. Another text came through. The car is downstairs. Black limousine. Driver's name is Thomas. He'll wait as long as you need. Please trust me, Mrs. Brooks. Your children don't have time to waste. Lena looked down the hallway toward Aiden's room. Toward her sleeping children who were dying cell by cell while she stood here trying to make sense of an impossible situation. What choice did she have? Have you ever received a message that changed your entire life? Could you imagine getting a text from a stranger offering to save your dying children? Drop a comment below telling me what you would do in Lena's position. And please subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This story will break your heart and put it back together again. The black limousine looked out of place parked in front of Lena's apartment building. The paint gleamed under the streetlights, so polished she could probably see her reflection in it. Through the windows of her second-floor apartment, she watched it sit there like a spaceship that had landed in the wrong neighborhood. It was 6 a.m. The hospital had discharged Aiden 2 hours ago with strict instructions for rest and follow-up appointments. Lena had gotten maybe 45 minutes of sleep in the chair beside his bed, her mind racing through everything that had happened, everything that strange man on the phone had said. Ethan Caldwell, a billionaire, who wanted to help her children. It seemed impossible. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. People like her worked 2 jobs and still couldn't afford winter coats that fit properly. People like her ate ramen noodles for dinner 4 nights a week. People like her didn't get rescued by billionaires. Mama, there's a fancy car outside, Arya said, pressing her nose against the window. She wore her favorite green dress, the one Lena had found at the Goodwill with only a small stain on the hem that she'd managed to wash out. Both twins were supposed to be resting, but telling 7-year-olds to sit still was like telling the sun not to rise. I see it, baby. Is that for us? Aiden asked from the couch where he was wrapped in a blanket, still pale but managing a curious smile. Before Lena could answer, someone knocked on the door. Gentle, polite. Not the pounding of a landlord demanding rent or the harsh rap of bill collectors. Lena checked the peephole and saw a man in a black suit and driver's cap. He looked professional, patient. She opened the door but kept the chain lock on. Mrs. Brooks? He asked politely. My name is Thomas. Mr. Caldwell sent me to drive you and your children to his office this morning. He's expecting you at 9 o'clock, but he said to tell you there's no pressure. If you need more time, I'm happy to wait. This is really happening, Lena said, more to herself than to him. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Caldwell is a very serious man when it comes to his medical research. He doesn't make promises he can't keep. Why would he help us? He doesn't know us. Thomas's expression softened. I've worked for Mr. Caldwell for 12 years. I knew his brother James. Losing him nearly destroyed the whole family. Mr. Caldwell made a promise at his brother's funeral that no other family would have to go through what his did. He meant it. He spent millions making that treatment a reality. When your text came through last night, he didn't see it as a random message. He saw it as fate giving him a chance to finally make things right. Lena's throat tightened. She looked back at her children who were watching with wide, curious eyes. Will there be breakfast? Arya asked in her small voice. I'm hungry. Thomas smiled. Mr. Caldwell had his chef prepare breakfast for all of you. Fresh fruit, pancakes, eggs, whatever you'd like. The word chef made Lena's head spin. She couldn't even remember the last time she'd eaten breakfast that didn't come from a box or a drive-through window. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay, let us get ready. 20 minutes later, they were settled in the back of the limousine. The leather seats were softer than her bed. Arya and Aiden sat with their eyes huge, touching everything gently like they were afraid it might disappear. There was a small refrigerator stocked with juice boxes and bottled water. A television screen. Climate controls that actually worked. This is like a castle on wheels, Aiden whispered, and Arya nodded solemnly in agreement. Lena held her phone in her lap, turning it over and over. She'd spent half the night reading about Ethan Caldwell. The articles painted him as brilliant, driven, intensely private. He rarely gave interviews. He'd built his company from the ground up, made his first million by age 25, his first billion by 32. Now, at 37 he was one of the wealthiest men in the state. But the articles that interested her most were the ones about his charitable work. The medical research facility he'd built. The families he'd helped quietly without press releases or photo opportunities. One article quoted an anonymous source saying, "Ethan Caldwell doesn't do anything for show. When he helps someone, it's because he genuinely cares. He just doesn't want credit for it." The limousine pulled up to a tall glass building downtown. Everything about it spoke of money and power. The marble entrance, the doorman in a crisp uniform, the lobby with its bright lighting and modern art. Thomas opened the door for them. "Mr. Caldwell's office is on the top floor. His assistant, Jennifer, will meet you at the elevator." They rode up 47 floors. The elevator was glass and Arya and Aiden pressed against the windows, watching the city spread out below them. Lena's stomach churned, but not from the height. From nerves. From the surreal nature of everything happening. The elevator doors opened onto a bright, open office space. Floor-to-ceiling windows let in morning sunlight. Everything was clean, modern, painted in soft blues and whites. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a maroon suit approached them. "Mrs. Brooks? I'm Jennifer. Mr. Caldwell is finishing a call, but he'll be with you shortly. Can I get you anything? Coffee? The children might enjoy some juice." "We're fine, thank you," Lena said, her voice small. Jennifer smiled warmly. "The breakfast is ready in the conference room. Please follow me." The conference room was stunning. A long table, more windows, and a spread of food that made Lena's eyes sting. Fresh strawberries, blueberries, and melon arranged artfully. Pancakes stacked high with butter and syrup. Scrambled eggs that smelled amazing. Turkey bacon. Pastries. Orange juice in crystal glasses. "Mama, can we eat?" Arya asked, her eyes locked on the strawberries. "Yes, baby. Go ahead." The twins descended on the food with the enthusiasm only children can manage. Lena tried to eat, but her stomach was too tight. She sipped orange juice and watched her children, memorizing this moment, this morning when everything felt possible. "Mrs. Brooks?" She turned. A man stood in the doorway. Tall, maybe 6 feet. Dark hair, gray eyes. He wore a simple blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up in dark slacks. No tie. No jacket. He looked nothing like the polished businessman from the photos online. He looked tired and real and somehow younger than she'd expected. "I'm Ethan Caldwell," he said, walking toward her with an outstretched hand. "Thank you for coming." His handshake was firm but gentle. His eyes went immediately to the twins and something in his expression shifted. Softened. Became almost painful to see. "These are my children," Lena said. "Aiden and Arya." "Hello," he said to them, and both children stared at him with syrup-sticky faces. "I'm very glad to meet you both." "Do you own this whole building?" Aiden asked. Ethan smiled slightly. "Yes, I do." "That's a lot of building," Arya observed seriously. "It is. Maybe I'll give you a tour later if you'd like." They both nodded enthusiastically, already won over. Ethan turned back to Lena. "Can we talk privately for a moment?" Her heart hammered, but she nodded. Jennifer appeared as if summoned and offered to stay with the children. Lena followed Ethan into his office. It was simpler than she'd expected. A large desk, but it was covered in papers and files, not intimidatingly clean. More windows. A few photos on the shelves, an older couple, probably his parents. And one of 2 young boys, identical, maybe 7 or 8 years old, grinning at the camera with gap-toothed smiles. "That's me and James," Ethan said, seeing where she looked. 6 months before he died. "I'm sorry," Lena whispered. "Thank you." He gestured to the chairs by the window. "Please sit." They sat facing each other, the morning sun bright between them. Ethan leaned forward, his hands clasped. I want to be very clear about something, he said. Last night when I got your text I thought it was spam at first. Some kind of phishing scheme. But the way it was written, I could hear the desperation, the love. So I looked up the number, found your name, did some research. I found the hospital records, your children's diagnosis. Everything checked out. And I realized this wasn't spam. This was a mother fighting to save her children. Tears pricked Lena's eyes. She blinked them back. Mrs. Brooks, I want to pay for your children's treatment. All of it. The gene therapy, the hospital stays, the medications, the follow-up care. Everything. I have the resources, I have the connections, and I have the facility where the treatment is being administered. Your children can start as early as next week. Why? The word came out choked. You don't know us. Why would you do this? His jaw tightened. For a moment he looked away out the window at the city below. Because 25 years ago my parents had all the money in the world and it couldn't save my brother. The treatment didn't exist. We could only watch him fade away, getting weaker every day until... He stopped, swallowed hard. I made a promise at his funeral. I promised James that I would use everything I had to make sure other families didn't have to go through what we did. I funded research, built a treatment center, recruited the best doctors. And now finally there's a cure. Your children don't have to die, Mrs. Brooks. They can have full, healthy, normal lives. Please let me help make that happen. Lena's vision blurred completely. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to hold back the sobs, but they came anyway. Great, heaving sobs of relief and disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. She felt Ethan's hand on her shoulder, gentle and steady. It's okay, he said softly. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. When she could finally speak, she looked up at him through tears. Yes, she said. Yes, please help my children. I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and made him look even younger. Then let's save them, he said. The medical center was nothing like the grim hospital where Lena had received Aiden's diagnosis. This building was modern and bright, with walls painted in soft yellows and blues. Sunlight streamed through large windows. Children's artwork decorated the hallways, colorful handprints and painted butterflies and drawings of smiling families. This is the Caldwell Center for Genetic Research, Dr. Patricia Wong said as she led them through the facility. She was a small woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and a warm smile. Her white coat was crisp, and she moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. We opened 3 years ago specifically to treat Harrington-Meyer syndrome and similar genetic conditions. So far we've treated 42 children. All 42 are alive and thriving. Lena's hand tightened on Aiden's shoulder. All of them? Every single one, Dr. Wong confirmed. The gene therapy we've developed doesn't just slow the progression of the disease. It actually repairs the cellular damage at the genetic level. Your children will need treatments over the next 6 months, followed by regular monitoring for a few years. But by this time next year they should be completely healthy. Completely healthy. The word sounded like a dream. They toured the treatment rooms, each one designed to feel less like a hospital and more like a comfortable living space. Bright red and green accents, soft furniture, televisions and gaming systems to keep the children entertained during their sessions. Many of our patients are here for extended periods, Dr. Wong explained. We want them to feel at home, not frightened. The treatment itself is painless, just an 4 infusion. But it takes several hours per session, so we try to make it as pleasant as possible. Arya tugged on Lena's hand. Mama, this doesn't look scary at all. That's the idea, sweetheart, Dr. Wong said, crouching down to the little girl's level. We're going to take very good care of you and your brother. You're going to be here a lot over the next few months, so we want you to be comfortable. There's even a playroom with toys and books and games. Sound good? Both twins nodded, their eyes wide but no longer afraid. Ethan had been quiet during the tour, walking slightly behind them, his hands in his pockets. Now, as Dr. Wong showed the children the playroom, he touched Lena's elbow gently. Can we talk? He asked quietly. They stepped into a small office just off the main hallway. Through the window, Lena could see Aiden and Arya exploring the playroom under Dr. Wong's watchful eye. I want to be honest with you about something, Ethan said. He looked uncomfortable, like he was choosing his words carefully. Building this center, funding this research. It wasn't just philanthropy. It was personal in a way I haven't really talked about publicly. Lena waited, sensing he needed to say this at his own pace. When James got sick, I was 8 years old. We did everything together. We were identical twins, the same in every way. And then suddenly he was sick and I wasn't. The doctor said it was genetic, a mutation in both of us, but his triggered and mine didn't. It felt random. Unfair. Like the universe had just decided he would die and I would live for no reason at all. His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. I watched him die over 9 months. He got so thin, so weak. By the end he could barely stay awake. The night he died, I was lying next to him in his hospital bed, holding his hand. He told me not to be sad, that he wasn't scared. He said dying was probably just like going to sleep and sleeping was easy. He was 9 years old and he was trying to make me feel better about the fact that he was dying. Tears slipped down Lena's cheeks. She didn't try to stop them. After the funeral, I couldn't stop thinking about all the other families going through the same thing. All the other children dying because there wasn't a cure yet. I was just a kid, but I promised James that when I grew up I would do something. I would make sure his death meant something. He looked at her directly, his gray eyes intense. I've spent 25 years keeping that promise. I built a company so I could fund the research. I recruited the best scientists. I poured everything I had into this center, into finding a cure. And now it exists. But until I got your text, until I met you and your children, it still felt abstract. Like I was honoring James's memory but not really connecting with what he went through. Does that make sense? Yes, Lena whispered. Meeting Aiden and Arya, seeing them so sick but so brave, it brought everything back. The fear, the helplessness. But this time I can actually do something. I can save them. And by saving them, maybe I'm saving a little piece of James too. Maybe I'm finally making peace with losing him. Lena reached out and took his hand. It seemed like the only response that made sense. No words could match what he just shared. Thank you for trusting me with that, she said. And thank you for everything you're doing for my babies. I know I keep saying thank you, but I don't have better words. You're giving them a future. You're giving me my children back. I will never, ever be able to repay you for that. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. You don't have to repay me. This is what the money is for. This is what all of it has been for. They stood there for a moment, hands clasped, two strangers connected by tragedy and hope. Dr. Wong knocked lightly on the door frame. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to discuss the treatment schedule with you both. Over the next hour they went through the details. The twins would need to come to the center 3 times a week for the first 2 months, then twice a week for 2 more months, then weekly for the remaining time. Each session would last about 4 hours. They'd need to stay in town, close to the facility. I can arrange temporary housing, Ethan said immediately. There's a residential building 2 blocks from here. I own it. We keep several units available for families receiving treatment. You can stay there rent-free for as long as you need. Lena opened her mouth to protest, to say it was too much, but she saw the look on his face. He needed to do this. Not just for her but for himself. For James. Okay, she said. Thank you. Again. He smiled slightly. You can stop thanking me. I'm going to be around a lot during this. Dr. Wong keeps me updated on every patient. I like to visit, get to know the families. If that's okay with you. That's more than okay, Lena said honestly. That evening, after they'd filled out paperwork and scheduled the first treatment session, Ethan walked them back to the limousine. The twins were exhausted, leaning against Lena's sides, but they were smiling. For the first time since the diagnosis they had hope. As Thomas opened the car door, Arya suddenly ran back to Ethan and threw her small arms around his waist. Thank you for helping us, she said, her voice muffled against his shirt. Ethan froze for just a second, then carefully hugged her back. You're very welcome, Arya. Aiden joined in, wrapping his arms around Ethan too. You're like a superhero. But real. Ethan laughed, and it sounded almost surprised, like he hadn't laughed genuinely in a long time. I'm not a superhero, he said. I'm just someone who wants to help. As the limousine pulled away from the center, Lena looked back through the rear window. Ethan stood on the sidewalk, his hands in his pockets, watching them go. Even from a distance, she could see the expression on his face. It was peaceful. Content. She had a feeling her accidental text message hadn't just changed her life. It had changed his too. The apartment Ethan provided wasn't just nice. It was beautiful. 3 bedrooms, a full kitchen with appliances that actually worked, a living room with furniture that didn't sag or have mysterious stains. The walls were painted a cheerful cream color. Sunlight poured through clean windows that overlooked a small park. Mama, is this really ours? Aiden asked, running from room to room. For now, Lena said, setting down their bags. She'd packed their few belongings that morning, given notice at their old apartment. Her landlord hadn't even seemed surprised. People left that building all the time, usually in the middle of the night when they couldn't make rent. The twins each chose a bedroom. Aria's had a window seat where she immediately settled with her collection of library books. Aiden's had space for his dinosaur toys and the model airplanes he liked to build from dollar store kits. Lena stood in the master bedroom and tried not to cry again. The bed had a real mattress, not a decades-old hand-me-down that hurt her back. The bathroom had a shower with good water pressure and a mirror that didn't have a crack running through it. She thought about calling her friend Sophie, telling her about everything that had happened. But how could she explain this? How could she make someone understand that a random text to a wrong number had led to all of this? Instead, she unpacked their meager belongings and tried to accept that this was real, that it was happening, that she could finally breathe. The first treatment session was scheduled for the next morning. Lena barely slept. She kept getting up to check on the twins to make sure they were really there, really okay. Around 3 in the morning, she found Aria standing at her bedroom window, looking out at the park. "Can't sleep either?" Lena asked softly. "I'm scared," Aria admitted. "What if the treatment doesn't work? What if I'm still sick?" Lena pulled her daughter close. "Dr. Wong said it works every time. You're going to be fine, baby. You and Aiden both. Promise?" She shouldn't promise. She knew better than to make promises she might not be able to keep. But looking into her daughter's frightened eyes, she couldn't help herself. "Promise?" she whispered. At 8 the next morning they arrived at the center. Dr. Wong met them in the lobby, her smile warm and reassuring. "Good morning, Brooks family. Ready for day 1? The twins nodded nervously. Lena held both their hands as they walked to the treatment wing. Ethan was there, waiting in the hallway. He wore jeans and a simple green shirt, looking nothing like a billionaire and everything like someone who just wanted to help. When he saw them, his whole face brightened. "Hey," he said. "I thought I'd stop by to see how it goes. If that's okay." "It's very okay," Lena said, meaning it. They settled Aiden into his treatment room first. The chair was comfortable, with controls that let it recline or sit up. A large television was mounted on the wall, already queued up with cartoon movies. A nurse named Rachel came in, young and cheerful, explaining everything she was doing as she set up the 4. "This might pinch just a little," she said, "but then you won't feel anything at all. The medicine goes in slow, so it takes a few hours. But you can watch movies, play games, eat snacks, whatever you want." Aiden barely flinched when the needle went in. He was too busy watching the TV screen. Aria's setup was in the next room, identical to Aiden's. She held Lena's hand tight while Rachel inserted her 4, but she didn't cry. She was trying to be brave. "You're doing so great, sweetie," Ethan said. He'd pulled up a chair on Aria's other side. "Your mom told me you like to read. What's your favorite book?" "I like stories about animals," Aria said, her voice small. "Especially ones with happy endings." "I like those too," Ethan said. "I'll see if I can find some good ones for the center's library. What else do you like?" As Aria started talking about horses and how she'd always wanted to ride one, Lena felt herself relax slightly. Ethan was good with the children. Patient and genuine, asking questions and actually listening to the answers. The hours passed slowly. Lena sat between the 2 rooms, moving back and forth to check on both twins. Rachel monitored their vital signs constantly, making notes on her tablet. Dr. Wong stopped by twice to assess their reactions. "Everything looks perfect," she said. "No adverse reactions, good absorption rates. This is exactly what we want to see." Around noon, Ethan disappeared for a few minutes and returned with bags of food from a nearby restaurant. "I figured you'd be hungry," he said. "Turkey sandwiches, fruit, chips. And mac and cheese for the kids." "You didn't have to," Lena started. "I wanted to," he said simply. They ate together, an odd little group. The twins chattered about the movies they were watching. Ethan told them stories about growing up with James, making them laugh with tales of their identical twin pranks. "We convinced our kindergarten teacher that there were 3 of us," he said. "We'd take turns pretending to be a 3rd brother. She was so confused." "That's mean," Aria giggled. "It was a little mean," Ethan admitted. "We apologized later." "Did your brother look exactly like you?" Aiden asked. Ethan's smile turned softer, sadder. "Exactly. We used to joke that we were the same person in 2 bodies. I feel that way with Aria sometimes," Aiden said. "Like we're connected even when we're not together." Ethan met Lena's eyes over the children's heads. The look they shared was weighted with understanding, with shared grief for the twin who'd been lost and shared hope for the twins who would be saved. After the treatment ended, both children were tired but in good spirits. Ethan walked them back to the limousine, carrying Aria when she complained that her legs felt wobbly. "That's normal," Dr. Wong had assured them. The fatigue will pass in a few hours. Just make sure they rest tonight. At the car, Ethan set Arya down carefully. You both did amazing today, he said. I'm really proud of you. Will you be there next time? Arya asked. If you want me to be. We do, Aiden said firmly, and Arya nodded. Then I'll be there, Ethan promised. As Thomas drove them home, Lena looked at her children drowsing in the back seat and felt something she'd almost forgotten. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt like everything might actually be okay. Her phone buzzed with a text. You're an incredible mother. Your children are lucky to have you. See you Thursday. Ethan. She read the message 3 times, her chest tight with emotion. Thank you for everything today. We're the lucky ones. Lena. That night, after tucking the twins into bed and checking on them half a dozen times, Lena finally let herself collapse on her own bed. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about how her life had changed in just 3 days. How a wrong text message had led to this moment. She thought about Ethan, about the sadness in his eyes when he talked about James, about how gentle he was with her children. He wasn't what she'd expected when she'd heard the word billionaire. He was kind. Real. Broken in some ways, maybe, but trying so hard to put the pieces back together. She fell asleep thinking about his smile when Arya had hugged him, about the way he'd carried her to the car without hesitation, about how he'd promised to be there next time. And she believed him. 6 weeks passed in a rhythm of treatment sessions, quiet afternoons in their temporary apartment, and slowly building trust. Aiden and Arya grew stronger with each passing day. Color returned to their cheeks. They had energy again, running around the park near the apartment, laughing with a freedom Lena had feared she'd never see again. Ethan came to every single treatment session. Not just to check in but to stay. He'd bring breakfast, help entertain the twins during the long hours, talk to Lena about everything and nothing. They learned each other's stories gradually in pieces. She learned that he lived alone in a penthouse apartment he rarely spent time in because it felt too empty. That his parents had moved to Florida after James died, needing to escape the memories. That he worked 16-hour days because what else was there to do with all that time and money? He learned that she'd gotten pregnant at 19, that the twins' father had disappeared the moment he found out, that she'd raised Aiden and Arya alone from the start. That she'd worked every job she could find, saved every penny, loved her children with a fierceness that amazed him. You're the bravest person I know, he told her one afternoon while the twins were absorbed in a movie during their treatment. I'm not brave, Lena said. I'm just doing what any mother would do. No, Ethan said firmly. Not everyone could do what you've done. Raise 2 children alone, work yourself to exhaustion, stay positive through all of it. That takes extraordinary strength. She felt her cheeks warm under his gaze. What about you? You turned your grief into something that saved dozens of lives. That's brave too. Maybe we're both brave, he said softly. The air between them felt different lately. Charged with something Lena couldn't quite name. Or maybe she could name it, she just wasn't ready to yet. On a Sunday morning in early October, Ethan called her cell phone. What are you doing today? He asked. Nothing special. The twins don't have treatment until Tuesday. Why? It's beautiful outside. I thought maybe we could go to the park. Have a picnic. I've been cooped up in my office all week and I could use some fresh air. And I know Aiden's been wanting to fly a kite. Lena smiled. Aiden had mentioned wanting a kite exactly once in passing 2 weeks ago. The fact that Ethan had remembered made her chest feel warm. A picnic sounds wonderful, she said. He picked them up an hour later, driving himself in a regular sedan instead of sending the limousine. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a blue t-shirt, sunglasses pushed up into his hair. He looked younger, more relaxed. I packed sandwiches, he said, holding up a basket. And I might have gotten a kite. You didn't have to do that, Lena said automatically. I know. I wanted to. The park was beautiful in autumn. Trees blazed with red and orange leaves. Families spread blankets on the grass. Children chased each other around the playground. It felt normal and perfect. They found a spot near a pond and spread out the blanket Ethan had brought. The twins immediately took off running, exploring every corner of the park while Lena called after them to stay where she could see them. They look so different from 6 weeks ago, Ethan observed, watching them go. Dr. Wong says their test results are incredible. The treatment is working even faster than she hoped. That's amazing. He looked at her. How are you doing? We talk about the kids all the time, but I don't think I've asked how you're handling all this. Lena thought about it. Honestly? Sometimes I'm afraid I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream. That I'll be back in that horrible apartment with my kids dying and no way to save them. It doesn't feel real that someone like you would help someone like me. Someone like me? Ethan repeated. Rich. Successful. Important. He shook his head. Lena, I'm just a person. Money doesn't make me better than anyone else. And if anything, you're the remarkable one here. You've been raising 2 kids alone, working multiple jobs, staying strong through everything. I just wrote some checks. That's the easy part. It's not just the money, she said quietly. It's the way you show up. The way you care. The way you remember that Aiden wants a kite or that Arya loves stories about horses. You didn't have to do any of that. I did though, Ethan said. His voice was soft, almost vulnerable. I needed to. Meeting you and the twins, being part of this. It's the first time in years I've felt like I'm doing something that matters on a human level, not just a financial one. Their eyes met and held. Lena's heart beat faster. She opened her mouth to say something, though she wasn't sure what, when Aiden came running back. Can we fly the kite now? Please? Ethan laughed. Absolutely. The next hour was filled with laughter and attempted kite flying. It took several tries to get it airborne, but finally the blue and green kite soared high above them, Aiden holding the string with Ethan's hands over his, guiding him. I'm doing it. Aiden shouted. Mama, look. I see, baby, Lena called back, her phone out to capture the moment. Arya had found a patch of wildflowers near the pond and was carefully picking the prettiest ones. She brought them to Lena in a messy bouquet. These are for you, she said shyly. Because you're the best mama. Lena pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of grass and flowers in her hair. Thank you, sweetheart. They're perfect. Can I pick some for Mr. Ethan too? I think he'd like that very much. Arya ran back to the flowers. Lena watched her go, then noticed Ethan watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked. Nothing. This is nice. Being here with all of you. Feeling like part of something. You are part of something, Lena said. You're part of our lives now. Whether you plan to be or not. He smiled, and it was the warmest, most genuine smile she'd seen from him. I'm glad I texted you back that night. I'm glad I sent the text to the wrong number. They sat together in companionable silence, watching the children play. The sun was warm on Lena's face. The grass was soft beneath the blanket. Everything felt right in a way she couldn't remember feeling before. When the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, they packed up the picnic. Arya gave Ethan his bouquet of flowers, and he accepted them with exaggerated seriousness, promising to put them in water the moment he got home. Can we do this again? Aiden asked as they walked back to the car. Like every Sunday? Ethan looked at Lena, a question in his eyes. If Mr. Ethan wants to spend his Sundays with us, she said carefully. I can't think of anything I'd rather do, Ethan said. As he drove them home, Lena sat in the passenger seat and watched the city lights come on. The twins chattered in the back about the kite and the flowers and when they could come back to the park. Ethan's hand rested on the gear shift between them. Without thinking too hard about it, Lena reached over and laid her hand over his. He startled slightly, then turned his hand palm up and laced his fingers through hers. Neither of them said anything. They just held hands while the city passed by outside the windows, 2 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, holding on to something new and fragile and hopeful. You're bringing her to meet Mother? Jennifer asked, her eyebrows raised. She'd worked for Ethan long enough to know this was significant. And the twins? Ethan confirmed, straightening his tie. He'd changed it 3 times already. The blue one felt too formal. The red one too bold. He'd finally settled on a maroon one that felt appropriate. I've been seeing them almost every day for 2 months. It feels like time. It feels like you're falling in love with her, Jennifer said with a knowing smile. Ethan paused, his hands stilling on the tie. Was he falling in love with Lena? He thought about her laugh, the way she moved through the world with quiet strength. He thought about how safe he felt around her, how she never treated him like a bank account or a means to an end. She just saw him. Ethan. The person. Maybe I am, he admitted quietly. Good, Jennifer said. You deserve to be happy. His mother, Margaret Caldwell, lived in a beautiful Tudor-style home in the suburbs. Ethan had bought it for her 5 years ago when she decided she was tired of the city. It had a garden she could tend, a porch with a swing, neighbors who didn't know or care about the Caldwell fortune. When Ethan pulled up with Lena and the twins, his mother was already on the porch, waving. Is that your mom? Arya asked, peering out the window. That's her, Ethan confirmed. Her name is Margaret, but you can call her Mrs. Caldwell. Or Grammy if she asks. She likes that. Grammy, Aiden repeated, testing the word. Margaret met them at the car, and Ethan saw his mother's eyes go immediately to the twins. Her expression transformed, something breaking open in her face. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh, they're beautiful." "Mom, this is Lena Brooks," Ethan said. "And her children, Aiden and Aria." Margaret took Lena's hands in both of hers. "I've heard so much about you. Ethan talks about you constantly." Lena shot Ethan a surprised look. He felt his cheeks warm. "All good things, I hope," Lena said. "Wonderful things," Margaret confirmed. Then she crouched down to the twins' level. "And you two must be the brave ones I've been hearing about. How are you feeling?" "Good," Aiden said. "The treatments are working. Dr. Wong says we're getting better faster than expected." "That's wonderful news," Margaret said, and her voice cracked slightly. She looked up at Ethan, her eyes shining with tears. "I'm so glad you found them." The afternoon passed in a warm blur. Margaret had prepared lunch, a spread of sandwiches and salads and cookies shaped like autumn leaves. The twins loved her garden and spent an hour exploring it while Margaret pointed out different flowers and told them their names. "This is lavender," she said, crushing a sprig between her fingers so they could smell it. "And this is rosemary. You can use it for cooking." "What's this one?" Arya asked, touching a bright red bloom. "That's a dahlia. They're my favorites. They remind me of—" She paused, then smiled sadly. "They remind me of my son James. He loved red flowers." "Mr. Ethan's brother?" Arya said solemnly. "The one who died." "Yes," Margaret said softly. "Ethan told you about him?" "He said James was brave," Aiden added. "That he wasn't scared at the end." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Ethan, who stood with Lena on the porch watching. "He was brave," she whispered. "Just like you too." Inside, while the children played with an old toy box Margaret had saved from Ethan's childhood, she pulled Lena aside into the kitchen. "I need to thank you," Margaret said, her voice low. "Thank me? For what?" "For bringing light back into my son's life." Margaret's eyes were intense, full of emotion. After James died, Ethan shut down. He threw himself into work, into making money, into the research. But he stopped living. He stopped letting people in. "I've watched him for 25 years, this brilliant, kind man who won't let himself be happy because he feels guilty for surviving." "Mrs. Caldwell," Lena started. "Margaret, please." "Margaret," Lena repeated. "Your son saved my children's lives. Whatever happiness I can give him in return is nothing compared to that." "You give him more than you know," Margaret said. "I see the way he looks at you. The way he talks about Aiden and Arya. For the first time since James died, he's allowing himself to care about people again. To feel things. That's not nothing, Lena. That's everything." Lena felt tears prick her eyes. "I care about him too," she admitted. "More than I probably should." "Why shouldn't you?" Margaret asked gently. "Because he's him. And I'm just what? A strong, beautiful woman who's raised two incredible children alone? A person who's faced impossible situations with grace? Lena, you're extraordinary. Anyone would be lucky to have you in their life. Including my son." They hugged then, these two women connected by loss and hope and love for the same complicated man. Later, as they were leaving, Margaret pulled Ethan aside. "Don't let her go," she said simply. "Mom? I mean it, Ethan. I see the way you look at her. Like she's light after years of darkness. Don't be afraid of being happy. James wouldn't want that for you." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "I'm trying." "Try harder," Margaret said, kissing his cheek. The drive back to the city was quiet. The twins had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted from their day of exploration and play. Lena looked out the window, her expression thoughtful. "Your mother is wonderful," she said finally. "She likes you," Ethan said. "I could tell." She loved the twins. "They remind her of me and James," Ethan said. "Seeing them healthy, thriving. I think it helps her. Helps heal something." "I'm glad," Lena said softly. They were quiet for a moment. Then Lena spoke again. "My friend Sophie wants to meet you." "Your neighbor?" "Yeah. She's been my best friend since I moved into that old apartment. She watched the twins when I had to work double shifts. She shared food when I ran out before payday. She's family, really. More than my actual family." "I'd like to meet her," Ethan said. "She'll grill you," Lena warned. "She's protective." "Good. You should have people who are protective of you." The following weekend, Sophie came to their temporary apartment. She was a large woman with a beautiful smile and eyes that missed nothing. She looked Ethan up and down when he arrived. "So you're the billionaire," she said. "I'm Ethan," he said, offering his hand. "It's nice to meet you." "We'll see about that," Sophie said, but she shook his hand. Over coffee and the pastries Ethan had brought, Sophie asked him direct questions. What were his intentions with Lena? Did he understand how hard her life had been? Was this some kind of charity project that would end when he got bored? Ethan answered honestly. He explained about James, about the promise he'd made, about how meeting Lena and her children had changed something fundamental in him. "I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for her," he said firmly. "I'm doing this because I care about her. About all of them. And if I'm being completely honest, they've helped me as much as I've helped them." Sophie studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I believe you. But if you hurt her, billionaire or not, I will come after you. Clear?" "Crystal," Ethan said, and he meant it. After Sophie left, Lena found Ethan on the balcony of the apartment, looking out at the city. "She's intense," he said. "She cares about me." "I know. I'm glad you have someone like that." Lena stepped up beside him. "I have more than someone like that now. I have you. And your mother. And Dr. Wong and the staff at the center. For someone who used to have nobody, I suddenly have a lot of people." "That's how life should be," Ethan said. "We're not meant to do it alone." He turned to face her. The setting sun cast everything in soft light, making her eyes glow. "Lena," he started, then paused, gathering courage. "I know this all happened fast. I know 6 weeks ago we were strangers. But I need you to know that this isn't temporary for me. Whatever this is between us, I want to see where it goes. If you want that too." Her smile was slow and beautiful and lit up her whole face. "I want that too," she said. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. They stood together on the balcony, holding hands, watching the sun set over the city, two puzzle pieces that had somehow found a way to fit together. Dr. Wong's office was bright and cheerful, with windows overlooking the treatment center's gardens. Lena sat in one of the comfortable chairs, Ethan beside her, both of them holding their breath as the doctor pulled up the latest test results on her computer screen. "I wanted to meet with you both before I talked to the twins," Dr. Wong said, turning the monitor so they could see the charts and graphs displayed. "Because these results are extraordinary." Lena's heart hammered. "Extraordinary good or extraordinary bad?" "Good," Dr. Wong said, smiling. "Very, very good. Look at these cell counts. Look at the genetic markers. 3 months ago, Aiden and Aria's cells were deteriorating at an alarming rate. Now, they're regenerating. Not just stabilizing but actively healing. The gene therapy has been more successful than I dared hope." "What does that mean exactly?" Ethan asked, leaning forward. "It means that barring any unforeseen complications, your children are going to make a complete recovery," Dr. Wong said, looking at Lena. "We'll continue treatments for another 3 months as planned, but at this point I'm confident they'll be cured. Completely and permanently cured." The word cured hit Lena like a physical force. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back the sobs threatening to break free. "They're going to live," she whispered. "They're going to live long, healthy, normal lives," Dr. Wong confirmed. "They'll be able to do everything other children do. Run, play, go to school, grow up. Everything." Ethan's hand found Lena's, gripping tight. When she looked at him, his eyes were wet. "Thank you," he said to Dr. Wong, his voice rough. "Thank you for everything." "Thank you for making this possible," Dr. Wong said. "The research, the facility, the funding. None of this would exist without you, Ethan. And Lena, thank you for trusting us with your children. It's been an honor to treat them." After the meeting, Lena and Ethan stood in the hallway just holding each other. No words seemed adequate for the moment. Their children were going to live. The nightmare was ending. The future was suddenly, impossibly bright. "We should tell them," Lena said finally, pulling back to look at Ethan. "Let's make it special," he suggested. "Let's celebrate properly." That afternoon, after the twins finished their treatments, Ethan led them all to a private room in the center Lena had never seen before. It was decorated with balloons and streamers in red, blue, and green. A banner read, "Congratulations Aiden and Aria." A small celebration was set up, a cake, presents, party hats. Dr. Wong was there, along with Rachel and the other nurses who'd been caring for the twins. Margaret had driven in from the suburbs. Even Sophie had come, grinning from ear to ear. "What's this for?" Aria asked, her eyes huge. Dr. Wong crouched down to the twins' level. "This is because you two have been the bravest patients I've ever had. And because I have very, very good news. The treatments are working better than we hoped. You're both getting completely better. You're going to be healthy and strong just like other kids your age. Aiden blinked. We're not sick anymore? You're still going to need treatments for a few more months just to make sure, Dr. Wong said. But yes, you're not sick anymore. You're going to be fine. The twins looked at each other, that twin communication that needed no words. Then they both started crying, but they were smiling too, happy tears streaming down their faces. We're going to be okay, Arya, Aiden said. We're going to be okay, Arya repeated like a prayer. Lena pulled both children into her arms, holding them so tight she was probably hurting them, but she couldn't let go. Her babies. Her babies were going to live. Thank you, Mr. Ethan, Aiden said, pulling away to look at him. You saved us. Dr. Wong and her team saved you, Ethan said. I just helped make it possible. No, Arya said firmly. You saved us. You're our hero. Ethan's composure finally cracked. He knelt down and pulled both children into a hug, his shoulders shaking. You two saved me too, he whispered. You reminded me why any of this matters. The party was small but perfect. They ate cake, opened presents. Ethan had gotten Aiden a remote control airplane and Arya a set of books about horses. Everyone told stories about the twins' bravery during treatments, how patient and positive they'd been even on hard days. They get that from their mother, Ethan said, looking at Lena across the room. She taught them how to be strong. I think they taught her too, Margaret said softly. As the party wound down and people started to leave, Ethan pulled Lena aside. Come with me, he said. There's something I want to show you. He led her to the rooftop of the medical center. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. The city spread out below them, lights beginning to twinkle on. This is beautiful, Lena breathed. I come up here sometimes when I need to think, Ethan said. After James died, after we had his funeral, I felt so lost. Like nothing mattered anymore. But standing in places like this, seeing how big the world is, it helped. It reminded me that life goes on. That there's still beauty even after loss. He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. Meeting you changed everything for me, Lena. You and Aiden and Arya. You reminded me what I was fighting for all these years. Not just to cure a disease but to give families hope. To give children futures. To give people like you a reason to keep believing in good things. Ethan, Lena started, but he shook his head gently. Let me finish. I know this all happened fast. I know we've only known each other a few months. But I need you to know something. I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have fallen. And I don't want this to end when the treatments are over. I don't want you to move back to your old life and leave me in mine. I want us to figure out what comes next. Together. Lena's breath caught. The setting sun made his eyes look like silver. He looked vulnerable and hopeful and so real. I'm falling in love with you too, she said. I think I started the night you called me back. When you could have ignored a random text from a stranger, but you didn't. You chose to care. You chose to help. That's who you are, Ethan. Not a billionaire. Not a CEO. Just someone who cares deeply about people and tries to make things better. How could I not love that? He smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Then he leaned in, slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. She didn't want to. Their kiss was soft and sweet, full of promise and possibility. When they finally pulled apart, Lena was smiling so wide her cheeks hurt. So what happens now? She asked. Now, Ethan said, we finish the treatments. We get your kids completely healthy. And then we figure out what forever looks like. Forever. Lena repeated, the word tasting like hope. If you'll have me, Ethan said. I'll have you, she promised. They stood on the rooftop, holding each other as the sun set and the stars began to emerge. Below them, in the medical center, their children were safe and healing. Around them, the city hummed with life and possibility. Everything had changed because of one wrong number. One accidental text. One moment of fate intervening. And Lena Brooks, who'd spent so many years just trying to survive, finally felt like she was learning to truly live. The article appeared on a Tuesday morning. Lena was making breakfast when Sophie called, her voice tight with worry. Have you seen the news? It's about Ethan and your family. Someone leaked the story. Lena's stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone and Googled Ethan's name. The top result was from a major news website. Billionaire Ethan Caldwell's secret family? Local mother and children living in Caldwell-owned property, receiving private medical treatment. The article was mostly speculation, filled with sources say, and according to insider information. But it had photos. Lena and the twins entering the medical center, Ethan holding Arya's hand at the park, the two of them standing close outside their apartment building. The implications were ugly. The article suggested Lena was taking advantage of Ethan, that she'd somehow manipulated him into paying for treatments. It questioned whether the relationship was genuine or transactional. It painted her as a gold digger and him as a fool. Lena felt sick. Her phone rang. Ethan. "I'm so sorry," were his first words. Someone from the center talked to a reporter. "We're trying to find out who. I've already contacted my lawyers. We can sue for invasion of privacy, we can." "Ethan, stop," Lena said. "Just stop." Silence on the other end. "Maybe this is a sign," Lena continued, her voice shaking. "Maybe this was all moving too fast. Maybe I should take the twins and go back to our normal life once they're healthy." "Lena, no. Don't say that. People think I'm using you. And maybe they're right. You've given us so much, Ethan. Money, treatment, housing, everything. What have I given you? What could I possibly give someone like you?" "Your time," Ethan said fiercely. "Your trust. Your company. The chance to be part of your family. Lena, you've given me more in 3 months than I've had in 25 years. Don't let some garbage article make you doubt that." But the damage was done. Over the next few days the story gained traction. More articles appeared, each one more invasive than the last. Reporters showed up at the apartment building. Someone got Lena's old address and dug up records of her financial struggles. They interviewed former co-workers at the diner, painting a picture of a desperate woman who'd latched onto the first wealthy man she could find. The worst part was the comments online. Thousands of strangers weighing in, most of them cruel. She saw an opportunity and took it. Can't blame her, but don't pretend it's love. Rich men never learn. There's a sucker born every minute. Those poor kids being used as pawns in their mother's scheme. Lena stopped reading them, but the damage was done. Doubt crept in. Was she being fair to Ethan? Was she putting him in an impossible position? At Caldwell Industries, Ethan's business partners and investors weren't thrilled either. He sat through a tense meeting where 3 board members suggested he was making questionable personal decisions that could affect the company's reputation. "Your private life is your business," Richard Holt, the oldest board member, said. "But when it becomes public, when it reflects on Caldwell Industries, it becomes our business too. We're concerned about the optics." "Optics," Ethan repeated flatly. "A billionaire rescuing a single mother, paying for everything, setting her up in an apartment. Looks like, well, it looks inappropriate, Ethan. Regardless of your actual intentions." "My intentions are to help sick children receive life-saving treatment," Ethan said, his voice cold. "Which, last time I checked, was exactly the mission statement of the Caldwell Foundation and the research center we built. So I'm not sure what the problem is." "The problem is the appearance of impropriety," another board member chimed in. "The suggestion that you might be personally involved with this woman." "I am personally involved with her," Ethan said. "I'm in a relationship with Lena Brooks, and I'm not going to apologize for that or hide it. She's an incredible woman, an amazing mother, and the best thing that's happened to me in years. If that's a problem for any of you, feel free to take it up with HR. Or better yet, resign." The room fell silent. "Ethan," Richard said carefully, "we're just trying to protect you. And the company." "The company will be fine," Ethan said. "And I don't need protection from people who actually care about me." But that night, alone in his penthouse, he felt less certain. He looked at his phone, at the text messages from Lena that had grown shorter and more distant over the past few days. She was pulling away and he didn't know how to stop it. He showed up at her apartment at 9 o'clock, not caring that it was late, that he should have called first. He knocked, and when she opened the door, he saw the exhaustion in her face. "Ethan, you can't be here," she said. "The reporters." "I don't care about the reporters," he said. "Can I come in, please?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was quiet. The twins were asleep. Lena had clearly been packing, boxes stacked in the corner. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked, his heart sinking. "Dr. Wong says the twins can finish their treatments remotely after next month," Lena said, not meeting his eyes. "We can go back home. Get out of your hair." "Lena, stop. This is too hard, Ethan. The articles, the photos, people judging us, judging you. I'm not worth all this trouble." "Yes, you are," he said firmly. He crossed the room and took her hands. "Yes, you absolutely are. I don't care what some reporters write. I don't care what strangers on the internet think. I care about you. About Aiden and Arya. About us. But your company, your reputation." "We'll be fine," he interrupted. "Do you know how many times I've had negative press? How many articles have been written about my business decisions, my personal life, my family? Used to it. It's part of being public. But I'm not used to having someone in my life worth fighting for. And you are worth fighting for, Lena. You all are. Tears streamed down her face. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with someone like you. I've never had anything good, Ethan. I don't know how to trust that this is real. He pulled her close, holding her while she cried. It's real, he whispered. I promise you it's real. And I'm not going anywhere. No matter what anyone says or writes or thinks. I'm here. I'm staying. Unless you tell me you don't want this anymore. She looked up at him, her eyes red but fierce. I want this, she said. I'm just scared. Then be scared, he said gently. But be scared with me, not away from me. We'll figure this out together. Together, she repeated. Together, he confirmed. They stood in her living room, holding each other while the city hummed outside. The boxes in the corner would get unpacked. The reporters would eventually find other stories. The cruel comments would fade. What mattered was this. Two people choosing each other despite the complications, despite the noise, despite everything that said it shouldn't work. Love wasn't always easy. But it was always worth it. What would you do if the whole world was judging your relationship? Would you stay and fight or walk away? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to see how this story ends. Sophie appeared at the apartment door 3 weeks later, her arms full of grocery bags and her face set in determined lines. I'm making you dinner, she announced, sweeping past Lena into the kitchen. And we're having a talk. Sophie, you don't need to. Hush, Sophie said, unpacking ingredients. I've watched you mope around for weeks. The media circus has calmed down. The reporters have moved on to some celebrity scandal. And yet you're still acting like the world is ending. I'm not moping, Lena protested weakly. You're absolutely moping. Where's that man of yours? Ethan's at work. He has a meeting. Ah. And how many times have you seen him this week? Lena shifted uncomfortably. We've both been busy. You've been avoiding him, Sophie said bluntly. Even I can see that, and I'm not the one in the relationship. Before Lena could respond, the door opened. Ethan walked in, but he looked different. He wore a simple blue sweater instead of a suit. His hair was slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. He had bags under his eyes. Hi, he said. I hope it's okay that I used my key. We need to talk. Sophie looked between them, then nodded decisively. I'll watch the twins. You two go to the bedroom and figure this out. And Lena Brooks, you better listen to what this man has to say. In the bedroom, Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, his hands clasped between his knees. Lena stood by the window, her arms wrapped around herself. I can't do this anymore, Ethan said quietly. Lena's heart plummeted. Oh. No, he said quickly, looking up. I don't mean us. I mean this distance. This thing where we're together but not really together. Where you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, always expecting me to leave or change my mind or decide you're not worth it. Ethan. Let me finish, he said. Please. She nodded. When James died, I shut down. I told you that. But what I didn't tell you is why. It wasn't just grief. It was guilt. We were identical twins, Lena. We shared the same DNA. The same genetic code. The mutation that killed him was in me too, but mine never triggered. The doctor said it was random, just bad luck. But I couldn't accept that. I kept thinking, why him? Why not me? Why did I get to live when he had to die? His voice cracked. For 25 years I've carried that guilt. I built companies, made money, funded research, thinking maybe if I did enough, saved enough other people, it would balance the scales. Make my survival mean something. But it never felt like enough. Nothing ever felt like enough. He stood and walked to her, stopping just close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. And then I met you. And your children. And for the first time in my entire adult life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not because I was writing checks or funding research, but because I was connecting with real people. Because I was part of something. Because I mattered to someone, not for what I could give them, but for who I am. Tears slipped down Lena's cheeks. When you pull away from me, Ethan continued, when you act like you're a burden or like I'm doing you some huge favor by being with you, it hurts. Because you have it backwards, Lena. You're not the one being saved here. I am. You and Aiden and Arya, you saved me. You brought me back to life. You made me feel again. I didn't know, Lena whispered. I know. That's why I'm telling you now. I need you to understand that this isn't charity. This isn't me being a good person or fulfilling some obligation. This is me being completely selfish, actually. because I need you in my life. Not just want. Need. Lena reached up and touched his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw, the warmth of his skin. I've been so scared, she admitted. My whole life nothing good has ever lasted. Every time I had something good, it got taken away. My parents kicked me out when I got pregnant. The twins' father abandoned us. Every apartment, every job, everything was temporary and fragile. I kept waiting for you to be the same. For this to be too good to be true. It's not too good to be true, Ethan said. It's just true. Just us. Just real. I'm sorry I pulled away. I'm sorry I didn't say this sooner. They stood there for a moment, just breathing the same air, being close. So what now? Lena asked. Now, Ethan said, you stop running, and I stop being afraid to show you how much you mean to me. Deal? Deal, she said. He kissed her then, and it felt different from before. Deeper. More certain. Like a promise being made and accepted all at once. When they finally pulled apart, Lena was smiling through her tears. The twins' final treatment is next month, she said. After that, we're officially done with the medical center. Have you thought about what happens then? I have actually, Ethan said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Lena's breath stopped. This isn't a proposal, he said quickly. Not yet. But I wanted you to know I'm serious about forever. This is a promise ring. A promise that when the time is right, when you're ready, I'm going to ask you properly. But for now, I just want you to wear this and know that I'm not going anywhere. That this is real. That you're not alone anymore. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band with a small blue stone. Sapphire, he said. James's birthstone. I wanted him to be part of this too. Lena couldn't speak. She just held out her hand and Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I love you, she finally managed to say. I love you so much. I love you too, he said. They went back to the living room holding hands. Sophie took one look at Lena's face and started grinning. About time, she said. Now sit down and eat. I made lasagna. That night, after Sophie had gone home and the twins were asleep, Lena and Ethan sat on the couch together. She had her head on his shoulder. He was tracing patterns on her arm absently. Tell me something, she said. Something nobody else knows. He thought about it. Sometimes I talk to James. Out loud when I'm alone. I tell him about my day, about problems at work, about anything really. I know he's not really there, but it makes me feel less lonely. That's beautiful, Lena said softly. Your turn. Sometimes I sing to the twins while they sleep, she admitted. Lullabies my grandmother used to sing to me before she passed. It's the only thing I have from her. Will you sing for me sometime? Maybe, she said, smiling. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Ethan? Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. On us. He kissed the top of her head. Never, he said. I could never give up on you. And in that moment, Lena finally let herself believe it. She was done running. Done doubting. Done being afraid of happiness. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 6 months later, the garden behind Margaret's house had never looked more beautiful. Winter had given way to spring, and flowers bloomed everywhere in riots of red, blue, and maroon. White chairs were arranged in neat rows on the lawn. Strings of lights hung from the trees, ready to illuminate the evening ceremony. Lena stood in Margaret's bedroom, looking at herself in the full-length mirror. The dress was simple but elegant, a deep maroon that complemented her skin. No train, no veil, nothing overly fancy. Just her, in a dress that made her feel beautiful. You look stunning, Sophie said, adjusting the flowers in Lena's hair. Absolutely stunning. I'm nervous, Lena admitted. Of course you are. You're getting married. But you're marrying the right man, so that's something. Margaret appeared in the doorway, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Don't start crying yet, Grammy, Arya called from where she sat on the bed, her own maroon flower girl dress spread around her like petals. Save it for the ceremony. I can't help it, Margaret said. You're all so beautiful. Aiden poked his head in, looking sharp in his little blue suit. Everyone's ready. Mr. Ethan is waiting. Then I guess it's time, Lena said, taking a deep breath. They'd kept the wedding small. Just family and close friends. Dr. Wong was there and Rachel and Jennifer from Ethan's office. Sophie's whole extended family had shown up, filling 3 rows of chairs. On Ethan's side, his mother sat in the front row, beside the empty chair they'd saved for James's memory. Ethan stood under an arch of flowers, and when he saw Lena appear at the garden entrance, his whole face transformed. He smiled so wide, so genuine, that Lena felt her nervousness melt away. This was right. This was real. This was forever. Aiden walked her down the aisle, so serious and proud. Arya scattered flower petals with great concentration. When Lena reached Ethan, he took her hands in his and she could feel them trembling slightly. The ceremony was brief. They'd written their own vows. Ethan went first. Lena, 6 months ago I thought I knew what my life was. Or research. Keeping promises to people I'd lost. But then you sent a text to the wrong number and everything changed. You showed me that life isn't just about honoring the past. It's about building a future. You and Aiden and Arya gave me that future. You gave me a family. You gave me love. And I promised to spend every day earning that gift. I promised to show up, to be present, to care for you and your children like they're my own. Because they are. Because you all are. I love you with everything I am. Lena was crying before she even started speaking. Ethan, I've spent most of my life being scared. Scared of losing things, scared of not being enough, scared that happiness was for other people but not for me. You taught me that I was wrong. You showed me what it means to be truly seen, truly valued. You saved my children's lives, but more than that, you showed all of us what real kindness looks like. What real love looks like. And I promise to trust in that love. To stop being afraid. To build this future with you, whatever it brings. I love you. I loved you from that first phone call, I think. And I'll love you forever. They exchanged rings. Simple gold bands, nothing flashy. The officiant smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Ethan pulled Lena close and kissed her as their small gathering erupted in applause. Aiden and Arya cheered. Margaret sobbed happily. Sophie whistled loud enough to make everyone laugh. At the reception, which was just dinner in Margaret's beautiful dining room, Ethan gave a toast. A year ago, he said, standing with his arm around Lena, I would have told you I was happy. I had a successful business, important work, a purpose. But I was lying to myself. I wasn't happy. I was just existing. Filling time until time ran out. He looked at Lena, his eyes soft. And then this woman accidentally texted me one desperate night. And instead of deleting the message, something made me respond. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was James looking out for me. Maybe it was just dumb luck. But whatever it was, I'm grateful. Because that wrong number led to the right person. To the right family. To the right life. He raised his glass. To wrong numbers and right people. To second chances and new beginnings. To love that saves us when we need it most. Everyone clinked glasses and cheered. Later, as the sun set and the string lights came on, Lena found herself alone in the garden for a moment. She stood by the dahlia bushes. The red flowers Margaret had said reminded her of James. Thank you, she whispered to the air, to whoever might be listening. Thank you for giving me your brother. For making sure that text found him. I'll take care of him, I promise. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find Ethan beside her. Talking to James? He asked gently. Maybe, she admitted. Is that weird? Not at all. I talked to him too, remember? They stood together in the growing darkness, watching their children play tag with Sophie's nieces and nephews. Do you think he'd be happy? Lena asked. About us? I think he'd be thrilled, Ethan said. He always wanted me to find someone. To have a family. To be happy. I think he'd love you. And he'd definitely love Aiden and Arya. I wish I could have met him. Me too. They were quiet for a moment, comfortable in the silence. So what happens now, Mrs. Caldwell? Ethan asked, using her new name for the first time. Now. Lena smiled. Now we live. We raise our kids. We love each other. We take it one day at a time and stay grateful for all of it. That sounds perfect, Ethan said. It really does, she agreed. They walked back toward the house together, toward the light and laughter and love waiting inside. The garden was peaceful behind them, flowers swaying in the gentle breeze. The red dahlias seemed to glow in the twilight. Life had a funny way of working out. One wrong text message had changed everything. Had brought together two broken people and made them whole. Had saved children's lives. Had created a family where there hadn't been one before. Lena Brooks, who'd once been so alone and scared that she texted a stranger in desperation, now had more love than she'd ever imagined possible. A husband who adored her. Children who were healthy and thriving. A future that stretched out bright and full of promise. Sometimes the wrong turn led to exactly the right place. Sometimes hope and kindness and love really did win. And sometimes, just sometimes, fairy tales came true.